Welcome to Edupreneur webinar number 6. This is number 6 of 9 webinars that we are hosting. Today's webinar is entitled Navigate Administrative and Legal Essentials. I will forewarn you, we will not go very deep today, but we'll just scratch the surface a little bit on this topic. For those of you that are here, I would love for you to share in the chat what your preferred name is. Tell us what your business's name is, or if you've not started a business, what idea do you have for your business? And then share with us the inspiration behind your business or idea. And finally, if you have any specific expectations of today, we would love to hear what those are. Again, we are excited that you're here. Welcome. This webinar is brought to you by the Edupreneurship Academy, where we are hoping that you can convert your teaching expertise into revenue. I am Dr. Erica Jewell, and I am a practitioner, an edupreneur, and a researcher. I do hold a PhD in educational studies for diverse population, where my focus was on urban elementary school leadership and how elementary school principals in urban settings mentor and support their teacher leaders. I am a national board certified teacher as an exceptional needs specialist, and I am closing out the 18th year in education for my career. Of those 18 years, I have worked in a number of urban public schools over the course of about 12 years. And I've been an edupreneur for the past 11 years. I like to extend a challenge to you all. So today's challenge is for you to watch your mouth. Watch the things that you are saying out of your mouth. So if you're saying things like, I'm not good at sales, I'm not confident enough, I'm not tech savvy enough, watch your mouth. Stop saying, I'm not. Those things that you're not the greatest at, sure, we have our strengths and we have our areas of need. I personally don't like to use the word weaknesses. So I say our areas of need. But what we shouldn't do is we shouldn't say, I'm not. Instead, I would prefer for us to say, I am. Type that in the chat. What is something that you are? It doesn't have to be just one thing. Share a thing or two or three that you are, that you know that you are. And some of us believe in daily affirmations, so we can say things today that we may not necessarily embody quite yet. But when we say them, we begin to internalize them, we begin to believe them, and then we begin to manifest them and make them come to pass. Today, I encourage you to be an active listener. Listen and pay attention to what I'm sharing with you, but also participate. If you want to come off mute, that is totally fine. If you'd like to use the raise your hand feature, or if you'd like to type your responses in the chat, I just ask that you participate in today's conversation. Also, feel free to take notes. There may be things that you want to take notes on. Feel free to do that. And if you have any questions as I'm going along, you can put those in the chat or use the raise your hand feature to come off mute and ask me those questions. I'll answer questions as we go along if necessary, or I'll wait until the end to answer your questions. So let's talk about a few vocabulary terms that we want to make sure that we define as we are going on into this particular webinar. An edupreneur, what in the world is that? You may be asking. An edupreneur, according to my definition, an edupreneur is an educator with an entrepreneurial mindset. Simply put, if you are an educator and you have an entrepreneurial mindset, whether you have a business or not, I consider you to be an edupreneur. The word teacherpreneur is synonymous with edupreneur in my book. And then I've coined a phrase called the edupreneurial orbit. To me, your edupreneurial orbit is important. It is a dynamic network of relationships and connections with people. Your orbit should be used to cultivate and enhance you personally as well as professionally. And finally, your entrepreneurial orbit is a support and improvement mechanism for your business. All entrepreneurs should have an entrepreneurial orbit in order to be successful. Now, let's jump into our topic for today. Navigate administrative and legal essentials. You may have some questions as I'm going along. Let me first say and give this disclaimer. I am not a legal professional, but there are some things that I've learned as what I consider to be a serial entrepreneur now that may be helpful for you. The objectives today are for me to define business structure options for you. I want to define that so you'll know what your options are if you have not already determined what your business structure is. I'll also explain intellectual property to you in some detail, but again, I'm not going very deep today. And I'm also going to suggest some digital tools for you to use that can help to make you more efficient in your work. So let's get into it. I am curious to know, what is your business's legal structure? For those of you that have businesses already, how is your business registered? For those of you who have an idea and not a business yet, what are you thinking your business's legal structure will be? Let's talk about what the options are. So you've got the option of having a sole proprietorship or a partnership if it's you and someone else. You've got the option of an LLC, which is a limited liability company. And then you've got different corporation options. So you can do a C Corp, an S Corp, a benefit corporation, a closed corporation, or a nonprofit corporation. And finally, you can also do a cooperative. So I found on the SBA website a nice graph chart that will explain each of these so that you can see what the structure is, but what the ownership, the liability, and the taxes look like. This to me is a really succinct way to describe each of the possible legal structures for your business. So again, a sole proprietorship, that's just one person who owns the company. There is unlimited personal liability there. And then for taxes, you see you've got the self-employment tax option as well as personal taxes. Partnerships, again, it's two or more people. So maybe it's you and a business partner, you and two or three other people. That is totally up to you. But you all would decide how much share you each have in the company, because you're sharing as partners in your particular business. Thirdly, you have the limited liability company, which is an LLC, which is pretty popular. This can be one or more people. For this one, the owners are not personally liable. I myself have LLCs, and that is because I want to keep my business's income separate from my personal income. God forbid, should anyone sue my business, then my personal income will not be affected. I, again, personally like LLCs. But you see here the differences again in the structures and the requirements of ownership, liability, and taxes. Then we move over and look at the options for corporations. That C Corp, that's one or more people. The owners also there are not personally liable. And then there's the corporate tax here. So you don't have the business tax and the personal tax option with the C Corp that you had with an LLC, for example. With an S Corp, this is one or more people, but no more than 100, and they all must be U.S. citizens. Okay, so for those of you that may be considering partnering with someone who's not a U.S. citizen or starting a business with someone who's not a U.S. citizen and S Corp is not the way to go. Okay. Here, owners are not personally liable with any of the rest of these. Owners are not personally liable, which is a good thing. And then you've got personal tax as the tax structure. For a benefit corporation, it again can be one or more people, and there's the corporate tax piece there. And for nonprofits, which are probably familiar to you, you've got one or more people who can actually have ownership in the nonprofit business. This particular distinction allows the business to be tax exempt, but corporate profits can't be distributed. So that is important for you to keep in mind when you're thinking about the structure or how you will register your business type. Okay, now let's talk about what is intellectual property. The word intellectual makes me think of intellect, which makes me think of what you're thinking. Property, of course, is something that you own. So, what is intellectual property according to the experts and the people who know the legal jargon for intellectual property? According to American Public University, intellectual property is a category of property that includes intangible creations of the human intellect. So you may say, I have created something, but I don't have a physical form of it. You may create something, come up with an idea that maybe an online course, for example. You can't pick that online course up and take it somewhere, right? Of course, you can log in and get to your course via your computer, but your computer itself is not the online course. So, different from someone who invents a tangible product, your intellectual property is something that comes from your mind that you have created, but it's intangible. This is important, especially for many edupreneurs who are authors or researchers or creators of online courses, for example. If you are an author, you may produce a written document that can be printed out, or you may produce a book that can actually be published. But what about those people who create online content, such as ebooks and e-publications, where they're not planning to necessarily print them out to sell them and distribute them that way? They want to create them to live on a virtual platform for others to consume. That is intangible, but it's still your own intellectual property. So intellectual property includes patents, copyrights, trademarks, as well as trade secrets. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about copyrights specifically momentarily, but this is information that I want you to be aware of, because as an edupreneur, you're creating, you're ideating, you're doing all of these things, but you want to make sure that your intellectual property is protected. Also, according to the American Public University, the intellectual property law bestows exclusive rights to the creators or inventors, giving them the power to reap benefits from their inventions or creative works. In America, it is highly promoted and highly suggested that we create, that we ideate, that we continue to add to the body of knowledge and body of work in our country. And we may also be able to help benefit those in other countries with our wonderful creativity and ideas. Now I'll talk to you about some useful digital tools for efficiency. I know I'm moving kind of quickly, so again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. And I, again, will say I'm simply skimming the surface today. There's plenty of information to drill down into and dig into on these topics, but I'm skimming simply the surface for today's webinar. Google Calendar. Now, if you're like me, I'm a journaler. So because I like to write things down, I loved having my paper calendar, my agenda book. A few years ago, I let it all go. And now I use only Google Calendar. Now, that's not to say that as an Apple person myself, that the calendar that's offered on the iPhone is not good. I personally prefer Google Calendar. And I also love Google Calendar because I can create categories or labels for what's happening so that when I look at my calendar, I've got them color coded. I love colors. So I have my actual events and agenda items color coded. So when I look at them, I know this right here is for learning little people. This event is for this nonprofit. This event is for that nonprofit. This event is for this board that I'm serving on. So at first glance, I can see what my calendar is filled with. So use some kind of calendar. Again, I am a proponent of Google Calendar, but use some type of virtual calendar so that you don't miss appointments, deadlines, and important events. Because what will happen as an edupreneur, you will agree to present at a conference, for example, or you'll agree to provide a workshop, facilitate a workshop. But if you don't put it on your calendar and you've just said it because you think you'll be available, you may overbook yourself, double book yourself, or you may later forget about it. That does not look good for business. You want to be a man or a woman of your word, and you want to follow through. Monday.com. This is a website that can help you with project management. If you're keeping up with multiple projects at one time that you're working on, you've got multiple plates spinning at once, use something like a Monday.com to show you what those particular projects are, and you can also track where you are in the process of completing them. Okay, Monday.com is a good one. QuickBooks. I like QuickBooks because it allows me to make my quotes, I can do invoices, and I can also print out or generate financial reports when I need them. There are times when school districts will ask me to send them a quote or an estimate. I send that to them. And so then once they approve it, then they need me to turn around and send them the invoice for the quote or the estimate that I sent them. QuickBooks makes that easy for me. There may be other sites that are out there, but I personally use QuickBooks. Okay, I like it. And again, I can generate reports with ease. DocuSign. DocuSign is useful in that once upon a time, I would print out contracts, sign them, and then scan them back in for me to then email them back over. DocuSign cuts all of that out. So I don't have to print it out, sign it, scan it back in, and email it over. Now I can do all of that in DocuSign. There may be some other websites that allow you to sign contracts, also allows you to send and receive contracts back, but DocuSign is mine of choice. It just helps. So there you have it. Google Calendar for appointments, Monday.com, and you could possibly use Asana. I've used Asana in certain spaces for project management, QuickBooks for accounting, and DocuSign for contracts. Okay. Your appointments are important. Project management is important. Of course, your accounting is important, and your contracts are important. We'll talk about contracts tomorrow. Now for the tips and tricks. Of course, I have enjoyed giving you different tips and tricks. I'll give you the first 5 tips and tricks first, and then I'll give you the tips for today. The first tip was to record all ideas that come to your mind as soon as you possibly can. Okay, you can do that with an idea book, in the notes app on your phone, or in the voice memos app on your phone. Tip number 2, intentionally expand your edupreneurial orbit. This is important for your business's growth. You can do so by serving on school and nonprofit boards. You can do it by volunteering and for committees and coalitions, or you can do it by presenting at conferences. Tip number 3, I told you, give adult learners TMI. Not too much information, but here's what TMI stands for. Give them time to process the information, movement opportunities, and interaction activities. Tip number 4, give your brand a personality. You can do by defining and expressing your brand's values, developing a unique voice for your brand, and creating visual identity and experiences so that when people see your logo, when they see your brand, even when they see you, they think about your business. Tip number 5, I told you to market in reams, not just sheets. Reams was the acronym because I wanted you to think about when you're marketing, making sure that you're giving people more than just 1 or 2 posts. Ream. Reach by sharing content across multiple platforms. Engage with your audience to create a loyal community. Amplify the impact by repurposing and cross-promoting your posts. And then finally, measure your marketing effectiveness and optimize your strategies. And now for tip number 6. Tip number 6 is for you to say it's copyrighted. Now, this particular tip has 2 parts to it, okay? The first part I'll simply say is we are to use the word copyrighted. It is not copywritten. I know it sounds weird to say write it, but the word is copyrighted. The second part consists of the 4 components of a copyrighted piece of material or what you've produced. Now, this can go on your website, this can go on your ebook, anything that you've published, but this second piece, which is the second part of this tip, is 4 parts. The first part of your copyright should include the word copyright, then the copyright symbol. Again, thinking about the bottom of your website, put the word copyright and then put the copyright symbol, which is the C inside of a circle. The second thing that says your intellectual property is copyrighted is for you to share the name of the copyright owner or author of the work. So if your business owns the work, then you would put your business's name. For example, my copyright would look something like this. Copyright, the C in the circle, copyright symbol, and then the name would say Learning Little People, LLC. Okay, so share the name of the copyright owner or author of the work. Then add the year the content was published. So on my website, it says 2013-2024. Each year, I update what that particular year is. I started Learning Little People in 2013, but I want to also keep that copyright current for that particular year. And then finally, end with these words, all rights reserved. Okay? That is how you say this intellectual property is copyrighted. Because guess what? You don't have to file anything for your intellectual property to be copyrighted. As long as you were the originator of that particular piece of work, then you have the right for it to automatically be copyrighted. So again, you say it's copyrighted, literally saying the word copyrighted, not copywritten. And you say that what you've created is copyrighted by including the word copyright followed by the copyright symbol, your name or the author's name of the work, the year that the content was published, and all rights reserved. That's how you say it's copyrighted. So we have completed multiple webinars. We have come to the end of webinar number 6. We've got 3 more to go. I am excited. I'm so excited. So meet tomorrow on June 11th for the Secure Lucrative Contracts webinar. There is the QR code. If you have not registered already, please definitely register. And if you cannot join us, that's totally fine. I will send you the playback from the webinar. And then this is the flyer for webinar number 7. And after that, webinar number 8, we'll talk about how you can scale your edupreneurial venture. I do want to let you know that we have the Edupreneurship Academy, and within that academy, you have the option of one-on-one edupreneur coaching with me. Now, this coaching is going to be customized based on what your specific needs are. We will have 2 30-minute Zoom sessions each month. If you'd like to combine those 2 for an hour, that is also possible. I'll give you personalized guidance as well as strategic planning. And I'm going to give you some customized feedback, whether you want feedback on your website or maybe on the proposals that you've created. I can help with that. And I'll also connect you with industry experts that can help push you and propel you into what your goals are. In order for you to build your edupreneurial orbit, this coaching piece is important and it's very helpful. It's only $170 per month at this present time. So if you are interested, definitely sign up for one-on-one edupreneur coaching. You won't regret it. We are excited because next year, June 12th through the 14th, we will have our very first, our inaugural Edupreneur Accelerator Retreat. This will be available to those that are members of the Edupreneurship Academy only, and the retreat fee is $3,275. It is all inclusive. It is exclusive. It is an intensive. It's a 3-day intensive full of workshops, activities, all sorts of things. I'll have some industry experts there doing different presentations as well as serving on panels where you can ask all the questions that your heart desires. But we'll also have meals every day, recreational activity, and leisure activities. So this is something that you don't want to miss. There is the option for you to pay a monthly fee in order to pay up for the retreat. So that monthly fee is currently $290. Here is what we also offer within the Edupreneurship Academy. I am in the process of designing some of the most interactive and exciting courses for the Edupreneur Mastery Series that I am so thrilled about. Also, you have the option of joining the Edupreneur Success Community. This is a place where you can come and enjoy weekly challenges. There will be member spotlights as well as collaborative support. You can ask questions. We'll be on Zoom for once a month for a group meeting. And then there will also be income opportunities passed your way simply for being a member of the Success Community. Here is my contact information for you. My email address is hello@drericajewell.com. You can also find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, and on YouTube. I've put my TikTok QR code in the bottom right corner, but my hashtag on each of these platforms is @DrEricaJewell. So please follow me. What questions can I answer? Are there any questions that I can answer for you before we go today? And I will stop sharing my screen to see what questions can I answer for you. So glad that you're here. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.